Hello everyone, welcome to Room and Board. This series is called Play It Now, and you're here to play the Seventh Continent. So get your copy out, and I will teach you how to set it up and everything you need to know to start right now. Let's do it. That is a nice box cover, isn't it? Gorgeous. To set up, first each player will choose one of these characters. They all do different things. You won't know what they do right now, so just pick the person who you think looks the coolest. Once you pick your character, you can also take the 5 associated skill cards for that character. You'll know they are associated with the character because they have the character's face on them. They look like this. They will probably be found under the tab character-specific skills. So in this instance, we're going to use Lovecraft and Frankenstein just because they're the two that are on the top. And I am going to take the 5 Lovecraft cards and the 5 Frankenstein cards. Once you've chosen your characters, you can also take the associated character figure and a campfire token for each player. You can now designate a spot on the table where the action deck and the discard pile are going to be. You may not have these cardboard things. They actually fold out into a little holder, but for the sake of it being top down, I'm just going to leave them there. And you can put the 10 cards or whatever character cards you have just in the action deck slot for now. And you can add in the 35 skill cards that come with the game as well. They'll all have the same blue back. Now we're going to choose our curse or our adventure. This will be the task that you are trying to accomplish. You can put multiple curses in, but the game recommends you do the Voracious Goddess curse first, and that's the one that we're going to start with today. So we're going to take the Voracious Goddess clue, and in addition, we are also going to take the curse card, which has the Voracious Goddess, and the 4 Death is Lurking generic curse cards as well. You'll see that they all have a blue back, and you guessed it, they are going to be in the action deck as well. So we can take this action deck and we can shuffle it up. Someone can do this while someone else sets up the rest of the game. As for the clue card, you can just put it aside on or underneath the satchel and journal card. This satchel and journal will hold all of your research cards that you get throughout the game, and it will also tell you the hand limit for the number of players and the number of items that those players can hold. That's what these icons mean. If you wanted to play on easy mode, which I definitely recommend, you will find out why as you play the game, but feel free to include this 777 card underneath the satchel and journal. Now you can set up your starting map. So if you look at the bottom of your clue card, this will tell you where to begin the adventure and what map tile you start on. This says begin the adventure by putting a 10 card into play. Each player places its figures on it. So do that now. Here we have card number 10 with some flavor text on the back. Thick columns of yellowish smoke rise up from cracks in the volcanic rock. To the east, the peaks of a rocky cliff look down, mocking the ocean below. This is where we are going to start our adventure. So each character places their figures on it. We all wake up there. Now you'll notice, I'll bring this closer to the camera just so you can see it. You'll notice that there are compass points pointing in a direction with a yellow, orange-ish number. These indicate that you also have to shuffle these gray exploration cards associated with the number, and you place it at any time the arrow points in a direction, you place one of these cards. This mist represents the uncertainties that you must brave before exploring the rest of the world. And that's the setup. There's not much more to set up before you can actually start beginning your adventure. But how, you ask? Well, it's pretty simple. On each turn, you'll choose an active character and they will attempt to do something. That's it. And if someone is on the same map space, they can join in and help with their item. What you can attempt to do on the map tile is represented by these white squares. There's a legend on your player aid to tell you exactly what those squares mean. These are only divided into different categories because certain items will help you do certain one of these things. But the mechanics behind the game are pretty much the same throughout. For each check, there'll be a blue diamond and a gold star. So the blue diamond indicates the number of cards that you need to draw to complete this objective, and the gold star indicates the number of stars needed on those cards for the objective to succeed. So anything that has a 0 will automatically succeed. I'll show you, I'll give you an example. Now, each action will go through the 7 action steps of the action resolution that's listed on this player aid. It's not as complicated as this text makes it out to be. So let's, for example, for our first action, we will search or investigate this sort of cliff face. So what it requires us to do is to draw 1 card from the action deck. As you can see, there is 1 star on the side. These are half stars, so they don't count unless they're combined with another card down the line. If you drew these 2 cards, for example, you would have 2 stars, 2 successes. But we only needed to draw 1 card, and we needed 0 successes, so that thing succeeds. You can then keep one of the cards that you drew. So had we drawn 2 cards, you'd have to choose which of these 2 cards you wanted to discard and which you wanted to put into the active player's hand. So let's say this was Lovecraft, who was the active player. He would do this check, he would take that, and he would place it into his hand to be used at a later date for whatever the text of the cards say. And these cards can do various things that'll help you down the line. So in this case, we reveal number 5. You stand before a nearby 50-foot-high rocky peak. So this is flipped over. You'll see that there is an accompanying arrow, which has the same symbol as the action that we just did. So this card is placed right next to the board to indicate that, you know, the map is expanding, but this is it's what's known as a permanent event in the rule book. So it is permanently attached to this specific card, which means any character who's on that space can take this specific action. Now with this action, you'll see it's a climbing action. You must draw at least 1 card and you must get 2 successes, 2 stars. If there's ever a chance that you might fail, there will be a white text box which indicates the rewards when you succeed and a black text box that indicates what happens when you fail. And that's pretty much it. Just go explore. If you want to explore more of the island, first you have to brave this mist. Now you'll see that flipping over the card to investigate it requires 0 cards and 0 stars. So what you can do is just flip the card. On the opposite side of this card, there could be anything from items to a challenge to an event. Anything can happen, but you must first accomplish whatever is behind this card before you can brave on to the next level. Once that is accomplished, you would take this set of text, flip it up, and lo and behold, you have a new map tile to explore. But how can you travel, you ask? Well, if you notice on the tile that you are standing on, in the bottom left corner, there is always going to be an icon showing you how much effort it will take to leave this current place and travel to any place that you have uncovered in the island. Of course, as always, it will involve drawing cards. These cards represent your life force. And when the cards are out, chances are you're not far behind. That's all you really need to get started. Don't worry about what happens when this runs out. When that happens, we'll deal with it. Here are the basic tenets to remember. The group chooses an active player. It can be anyone. The active player attempts to do a thing. Anybody else who's on a tile with that active player can join in helping that thing. You'll find you might encounter certain items. These can be used to discount certain actions. I'll talk about items in the next section. You don't really need to know that to get started. But the point is that anyone who is involved with the action can help with that action. You see if the action succeeds or if it fails. If it doesn't require stars, it will always succeed. Then you see the results of that action and take it from there. You don't need anything else. Get going. The only thing now is to take your clue card and to read the front and the back if the back had text. This just has a map. Dramatic reading to follow. Skip it if you want to read it. Since you returned from that expedition, the vision of a strange, gloomy idol that seems to be calling you has been haunting your nights. The piercing cries of a few seagulls pull you out of a deep slumber. They sound so strange, as though they were laughing. You try your best to understand. Where on earth are you? How did you end up in this place? Your memories are clouded, and you seem unable to remember. While sifting through your journal, you come across a handwritten sheet upon which something that looks like a root was drawn, along with several statues. As it so happens, one of the statues looks exactly like the idol from your restless dreams. And on the back, we have our map. You now have this rough map and a rough destination. So get started. All right, let's talk about items. When you keep a card, you might get a chance to keep the idea of an item. So you don't actually have this item yet until you are able to craft it. Now, as you can see, the crafting action requires 0 stars to be a success. It just requires time and effort. In this case, to craft this shovel, you'd need to draw 3 cards and get 0 stars. However, if these icons are located on your current map tile, so if we look at our starting map tile, for example, you'll see there is an item resource that you can find on it. You can subtract that amount of time. And so basically to craft this shovel, if you were standing on this tile, it would only cost you 1 card. The active player then takes this item and places it into their inventory and places a die on the card. This represents the number of uses this item has. Every time you use it to either dig, fight, or open something, you can subtract 2 cards, and every 7 that appears on cards that you flip up out of the action deck, like this for example, are worth a star. When you use that, you subtract a pip from the die. Once you use all of the die's points, the item is then no more, it's discarded. When you're solo, you can have 4 items. With 2 people, each player can have 3 items. With 3 people, each player can have 2 items. And with 4 people, each player can have 2 items. You'll see these little boxes underneath. That's because each item can also be combined with additional items. This saves you space in your inventory and gives it multiple powers. The good thing about this item combination is that if the keywords match, in this case they do not, but say this said stamina, when you added this item to another item, you'd actually get to add its pip value as well. So say these were both stamina items. When I built this onto my shovel, my now flint shovel, the durability of the item would go up by 1. So with 3 players, each item can be comprised of 3 different sections, and with 4 players, each item can only be comprised of 2 different sections. Remember, items can only be used to affect the types of actions that they are related to. But Chris, you may say, what happens when I've used up all of my cards in the action deck? Am I dead? Almost. Every time you try to complete a check and you don't have cards that you can draw from the action deck, you take your discard pile, shuffle it up, and draw cards off the top from that. If you don't draw a curse card, you're fine. Everything goes back into the discard pile, your action succeeds. However, if even one of these cards is a curse card, you die. Your adventure is over, and you have to reset the game and try again. If you decide you're done playing for the evening and you want to finish your play session, all players must meet on a single map tile. You then take all of the other cards that exist on the map and put them in a section located called the past. This is a tab that will be located in your box where you will be putting cards in throughout the game. You then take your map tile, your character, and any items and simply put them behind the save section. That's it. In order to remember the durability of your items, there are these cards. If your durability is 6, you just put it facing up, knowing the 6. That way, when you come back to the game, you'll remember that the subsequent item had 6 durability. In this case, it had 5 durability, so we'll put it like this, behind our save tile. When you want to set the game back up, simply take the tile that you were on, place it on the board, take the associated items, give them to the associated characters, and then place any exploration missed tiles if there are arrows that designate it. You've returned, but you now must re-explore the island. Anything that is located in the past at this time gets shuffled back in if they're exploration cards, or gets placed in its numerical spot in the deck. That's it. Go forth, explore, enjoy.